Hey everyone, and welcome to your C++ tutorial on if-else statements. So you can see I have Visual Studio Code pulled up here with our Hello World project ready to go. I'm going to delete the Hello World instruction, and let's start out with a scenario. Let's say that I want to make a program that will tell me when I should bring an umbrella. All right, so what I would need is I would need some way of telling when it was raining, right? So let's create a bool. We'll call this is raining. We will set it to true. It actually is raining right now. So next, I want to tell the user if it's raining, I want to show the user some type of advice like bring an umbrella. So to do that in C++, you would just create an if statement. And so an if statement looks like this. We have the keyword if, and you can see here we have a condition and then our code that will execute when the condition is true. So in between these two parentheses right here, the if statement needs a Boolean expression, right? So in an expression that provides a true or false value. And this expression can be as large or as small as we want it to be. It can even just be a single variable, which is what I'm going to use. So I'm going to use the isRaining variable here. And we know we've assigned this to true, so this code will execute. And the code that I want to run will be I think my language is confused here. It'll be a print line that'll say, bring your umbrella. Perfect. So let's run this code and use our G++ compiler to compile our C++ file. And I'll run it, and it says bring your umbrella. Perfect. So what's happening here is that we have our Boolean is raining. We set it to true. We're saying if it is raining, and that's true, it'll run this code. Now let's set it to false. False. And let's run this. Cool, so it prints out nothing, right? So since there's no other statement here, right? So it's just the if statement, and the if is checking is raining. So if it's raining, we print this out. Otherwise, we don't do anything. So that's kind of where the else comes into play, right? So if it is raining, we'll print this out. If any other thing is, if it's not true, then we need to catch that with an else statement. And so an else statement, so if it is raining, we run this code. If it's not raining, then we'll need to catch that with an else statement. So an else statement looks like this. Very simple. So whereas if you need to check a condition, else you don't need to check a condition because else kind of just catches every other scenario. So if there were a lot of other things, like we used our logical AND operator and we added all these other conditions, and we had an OR and all this other stuff. Some of this stuff might be true, some might be false. It might produce a false value. All of it would be caught in this else block here. So in our else block, I'll print out don't worry about it. So we still have our isRaining Boolean as false, and previously we ran it, we didn't get any result. Now that we have an else block, let's see what our result is. So I'll run it in our console here, and we see don't worry about it. Awesome. So previously we didn't get anything, but now with our else block, we get our new text. Cool. So now just to expand this program a little bit more, there might be some situations where it's not raining, so is raining is false, but we still might want to bring an umbrella. For example, if it's very cloudy and looks like it's going to rain in the future. So let's create another Boolean, and we will call this one is cloudy, and we'll set it equal to true. So in this scenario, it's not raining, but it is cloudy. Now, how do we represent that with this? Well, there's another construct we can use called an if-else. And so what an if-else is it looks like this. If-elses have to come after an if statement in the same way that an else statement has to come after an if statement. You can't have an else statement on its own. However, you can have an if statement on its own. So what an if-else does is if the preceding if is false, it'll fall down to an if-else, and then we can check a second condition here. Right? We can check another condition, and we see if it's true. If that condition is true, then we run the code that's inside of the parenthesis or the curly braces here. Right? So our other condition is going to be is cloudy. And so if it is cloudy, we are going to print out you should probably bring an umbrella just to be safe. Cool. All right, so let's run this code now. We'll compile it using our G++ compiler. Oops, my bad. I switched these around. It should be else if. I am getting my languages confused here. Okay, so let's try to compile it again. Oh, I didn't save it this time. A lot of mistakes. There we go. We'll print it out, and we see you should probably bring your umbrella just to be safe. So you can see here that we have our is raining Boolean is false, but our is cloudy Boolean is true. And so in our else if block, it'll run this code. Okay, so just to expand this program a little bit more, let's include some functionality that'll tell us when we need to buy an umbrella. So let's create yet another Boolean, and it will be called has umbrella. And we will set this to false. We will set our is raining Boolean to true, and we will set our is cloudy Boolean to false. So what we can do is we can say if it's raining and you don't have an umbrella, right? So has an umbrella is false, then we will print out you should buy an umbrella. So what you can do here is you can nest if statements, right? So you can put an if statement inside of an if statement. That's called nesting. So if we have our if statement here, inside of it, we can put another if statement, and we'll say if has umbrella. And if we do have an umbrella, then we will say, bring your umbrella. Oops. So that cool. If we don't have an umbrella, then we're going to need to print out something else. So we will say, better go get one. Right? So, okay, awesome. So now we have a nested if statement that has its own else block. But remember, this nested if statement won't run unless the first if statement's expression is true. So let's compile that test file, and let's run it and see what happens. Awesome, so we have better go get one. Perfect. So what's happening here is we know is raining is true, so it is raining. So we execute the code that's in this block. Next, we check to see if has umbrella is true. If that's true, which it is not, but if it is true, then we would execute the code in this block. Since this is not true, then we fall into our else block here, and we write out better go get one. Awesome. So this has been your tutorial on if-else statements. And just to review real quick, we've created these Booleans up here that we set to our true-false values. And we can sort of direct the flow of control here using these if statements. So we have our initial if statement, and then we have an else if, and then we have an else, right? And so if this one is true, then this code will execute. If this expression is not true, then it falls into this secondary else if. If this is true, it executes this code block between here. If not, it'll execute the else down here. You can only have, in a chain of if statements, you can only have one if, but you can have as many else ifs as you'd like. You can also only have one else, right? If you have two ifs, for example, you have if and then another thing, that's a separate chain for if statements. That's separate from the initial if statement. And what that means is that one can pass and execute its code, and then the other one can also pass and execute its code. Whereas in this situation, if this first expression is true, it terminates the rest and doesn't run the rest of the stuff. Okay, so I hope that was helpful for you guys. This has been your C++ tutorial on if statements. Thanks.